Hi class, and welcome to another module. This week we will be talking about poetry. Now I know poetry is difficult for some students to interpret and analyze, so we will go over a technique that hopefully will help you be able to analyze and interpret poetry a bit better. But first, let's talk about our objective. We will analyze the way in which the theme or meaning of the selection represents a view or comment on the human condition. Then, students will analyze literary devices found in poetry. So let's get started. Here is the technique I want you guys to become very familiar with. It's called TPCASTT. This is an acronym that stands for title, paraphrase, connotation, attitude, shift, title, theme. Once you lock this into your memory, you'll have no problem analyzing a poem because it's a method used to help us understand and appreciate and communicate about poetry. So let me show you how it's done. But first, let's talk about a few vocabulary words that's important to our discussion. Literal. Literal language is language that means exactly what is said and not exaggerated. Most of the time, we use literal language when we're speaking. Figurative language means, figurative is language that means more than what it says on the surface. It is often used by poets and other writers. Remember, we've talked about that previously. Now, denotation is a dictionary definition of a word, whereas connotation is a meaning suggested by a word or a phrase, in addition to its exact meaning, and it can be the emotional feelings associated with a word. So keep this in mind as we go along. We will be using the poem Piano by D.H. Lawrence for our discussion. So remember, the first letter of the acronym TPCAST is T, which stands for title. So what we first need to do is make a prediction about the poem based on the title. What predictions can you make about the poem? So it's titled Piano. I put the poem might simply be about a piano or playing a piano. Okay, so now we'll need to go ahead and read the poem. Softly in the dusk a woman is singing to me, taking me back down the vista of years, till I see a child sitting under the piano, and the boom of the tingling strings impressing the small, poised feet of a mother who smiles as she sings. In spite of myself, the insidious mastery of song betrays me back, till the heart of me weeps to belong to the old Sunday evenings at home, with winter outside and hymns in the cozy parlor, the tinkling piano our guide. So now it is vain for the singer to burst into clamor, with the great black piano appassionato. The glamour of childish days is upon me. My manhood is cast down in the flood of remembrance. I weep like a child for the past. So, after we've read the poem one time through, we need to look at what the P is in TPCAST, which is paraphrase. So now you will describe what happens in the poem in your own words. This is what I put. The poet or speaker hears a woman singing, which makes him vividly recall a childhood memory. He listened to his mother playing the piano while sitting underneath the piano and touching her feet. He longs to be back in the cozy, happy home of his family when he was a child. He is overcome by emotion and cries. So this is just a simple paraphrase that you do for the entire poem. Next, we need to explore the connotation. What might the poem mean beyond the literal level? Here's where you look and explore what figurative language did the author use, like imagery, metaphors, similes, personification, and so on. This is what I put in regards to connotation. The poem might mean that the author or speaker is unhappy with his current adult life. Things seem to be quite loving and warm in his childhood. And here are the poetic devices that I pointed out. There was rhythm, there were rhyming couplets, the symbol of the piano itself, which could mean the rhythmic emotion of life. There was imagery and onomatopoeia and a simile, weep like a child. So you will just take that time and explore every single example of figurative language you can find that will help you understand the connotation of the poem. Next, you look at the attitude. Describe the tone of the poem. What is the poet's attitude toward the subject of the poem? What's the speaker's attitude? So this is what we came up with. The poet or speaker's tone seems to be one of sadness and longing, as shown in this quote. Till the heart of me weeps to belong, the glamour of childish days is upon me, and I weep like a child for the past. So clearly the author is longing for his childhood based on this quote. And you will want to use quotes when you describe the attitude and some other aspects of TPCASTT. You always want to revert back to the text to show text evidence of where you got your information from. Next, we will look at the shift. Is there a shift or a change in the tone or in the poem? So, let's see. I think there is a subtle shift in tone from the beginning of the poem, which seems like a simple recollection of childhood memories, to the end, where the author demonstrates a more painful longing to have things the way they used to be. So, anytime you notice that maybe there was a shift, the mood went from happy to sad or something like that, you will take note of it in this section. Next, we look at the title again because, when you first read a poem, the title, you may think it means one thing, but after we read it through, what do you think now? What comes to your mind now? So, now I think the title piano represents a focal point for the author's or the speaker's feelings, which was pianos or music are by nature connected with our emotions and often with other people in our lives. So music can prompt us to feel very deeply, and thus the piano comes to represent much happier time in the life of the author or speaker. So you see, this is a more detailed response about the title than what we had in the beginning. Next, we explore the theme, which is the overall message of the poem. What can you take away, excuse me, from the poem? So I put, the theme of the poem appears to be longing for the past, which may seem to have been more loving and happy. So there are moments in your life where you long for a happier time. This can be a theme that you take away from the poem. And remember, theme is something that is different for every person. It's just a message that you will take away from it. Everybody will have a different one. Some people will have the same one. You will just have to be able to prove it with the text evidence. Okay? So, that comes to the end of our discussion on TPCASTT. So now that you have this method, you can use it when you're enjoying poetry, at your leisure, or even on the STAR test when you see a poem there and you want to quickly do a method that will help you analyze it. So, thank you for your attention, and I look forward to seeing your poetry analysis this week.